I don't know the exact definition.
Not exactly. I have some guess, but no.
So it is when people shame women for being sexually assaulted and they blame it on things like what they looked like or where they were.
I'm Sonja. I'm 25 years old and I'm from Finland. When I was 17, I was in an abusive relationship, and in the beginning I had my own problems with intimacy and commitment, so my subconscious was like, I need to get out of this, but it didn't know how to do it. So one drunken night I made out with a guy, and my boyfriend didn't really deal with it. But then he started to get really violent, especially when he was drunk. One night we were in a party, and I was feeling really bad about what I have done. And then I went outside and I cried, and when he found me there alone crying, he asked what are you doing here? Why are you here? And I was like, I just feel so bad, how I hurt you. And he just started laughing, and he was like, I don't believe you're that good of a person that you come here to cry about that. For some reason, I just felt that I deserved it.
Mijn naam is Huiting. Ik woon in Groningen. Ik ben getrouwd. Ik heb 3 dochters. En in mijn dagelijks bestaan ben ik docent maatschappelijke zorg en sociaal werk in het mbo. Mijn ouders zijn Jehovah's getuigen. Vanaf mijn 8e ben ik in aanraking gekomen met seksueel misbruik. Door een geloofsgenoot. Die was ouder dan ik. En dat is tijdens en na christelijke bijeenkomsten gebeurd. En die bijeenkomsten die vonden plaats bij mijn ouders thuis. En het gebeurde met grote regelmaat dat ik na een christelijke bijeenkomst naar mijn slaapkamer werd toegebracht. Waarbij een oudere jongen, toen ongeveer 16, 17 jaar, mij seksueel misbruikte. En dat begon eigenlijk heel redelijk onschuldig, om dat zo maar te zeggen. En dat mondde uit in uiteindelijk verkrachting. En dat heeft een periode van ongeveer 4 jaar geduurd. Nou, het was eigenlijk een geheim die ik met me meedroeg, totdat ik ongeveer 16 jaar oud was. En het werd mij natuurlijk op het hart gedrukt door de pleger van een seksueel misbruik. Van praat er niet over. Dit is iets van ons beiden. Ja, dit was wel een soort van eenzaam bestaan.
My name is Romy Joelle Voswijk and I'm 21 years old. My previous relationship lasted almost 4 years, it was 3.5 years. The relationship seemed quite nice, in general it was just a normal relationship. The problem was with that he had a very different, a sex drive than me. So he wanted to sleep with me quite often. And I just didn't. The more and more it would go on, the more he would pressure me, because eventually if I kept refusing the first few times, he would accept it and be like, oh, okay. But then the more I kept refusing, the more he would pressure me, which eventually turned worse and worse. First it was just with words oh, come on, can't you just do it? Don't be so boring. And then it became worse by actually trying to force me, guilt tripping me and so on. And then it started going on with touching me in private areas my breast, butt, vagina, whatever, and I would tell him to stop because it's just a bit weird. I'm just doing like, I'm washing the dishes and he would just grab me. So I asked him multiple times to stop, also in a more serious manner, like I feel uncomfortable, please stop. And he would kind of get angry with me because he felt like I was rejecting him. I think in the last time what happened is that he would actually have sex with me and I would refuse and he just kept going, which is obviously very bad and very horrible as well. I just felt like I couldn't do it anymore, so I broke up with him through the phone because yeah, which is crappy after so many years, but I just felt like I couldn't even face him anymore. Shortly after I found I started dating another guy, which I didn't expect because we weren't supposed to start dating because I wasn't healed from this, obviously. Turned out to be my current partner, and he lived at a big student campus here in Amstelveen as well. And one night I went to see him and I was still recovering from this. This happened like a few months before that. I went to see him during like 9 in the evening, and then I was groped, sexually harassed by a guy in an elevator, which was really horrible to me because I was very, well, not scared of men, but I had a very negative view of many people. Like I wasn't very happy during that time. And then a man that said he was on visit there in one of the student houses, he ended up being lying and followed me in the building, and he groped me in the elevator.
I work for the Center of Sexual Assault. What I do is that every case that comes in, I look at it, I read it, I see if everyone gets the right care. Victim blaming is that someone else or yourself blame you for what happened. When you're sexually assaulted, when you're a victim or survivor, that's what we call it as well, then you tend to think that it's your fault. That's what you do because you're ashamed of what happened, and you feel guilty because you think that you had something to do with what happened. And it's a way to have control over the situation as well. Because when it's your fault, then probably you did something to provoke the perpetrator, so you can control the next time when it happens. That's what you think. It doesn't work that way, but that's what usually victims, not even knowingly what they think. And there's also victim blaming from the perpetrator itself. It's functional to keep it a secret, because sexual assault is something that's like really bad that can happen to you. It happens most of the time between two people in a secret place. No one knows it, no one has been there with you. So the perpetrator, it has a function if he says, well, you wanted this yourself because, well, you were wearing this short skirt, you were saying this to me, you were flirting to me. And by putting the guilt on a victim, on a survivor, it makes sure, he makes or she makes sure that it stays a secret. And then you have the victim blaming from people around you, like family, friends, and victim blaming from them. It's functional for keeping the social system intact.
Now when I look back, I can't understand how I would ever think I deserve that. I don't understand it. But then I think I was just so young and in love and stupid. I just thought that because I loved him so much, it's worth it to go through that just to be with him. And because I hurt him, he can hurt me. I told my friends, well, some of the times they were there and they saw it happen. They were like the guy is a fucking psycho and you have to get out of the relationship, and how can you still be there? It made me feel, on the other hand, like I understand them and why am I here, because I understood it wasn't okay. But on the other hand, it was like they don't understand why I want to still be in the relationship, because I still love him. And yeah, I got support from my friends, like they were still there, but I didn't get any other help back then.
Uiteindelijk heb ik het op mijn 16e verteld als eerste aan mijn moeder. Waarom? Omdat ik last kreeg van de gebeurtenis zelf. Ik werd depressief. Ik had zelfmoordgedachten. Ik functioneerde niet meer goed. En op dat moment heb ik ook mijn moeder ingelicht van, nou weet je, het gaat eigenlijk helemaal niet goed. En toen heb ik mijn verhaal gedeeld. En toen heb ik verteld wat er met mij gebeurd is. Maar toen ik het verhaal vertelde aan mijn moeder, toen was eigenlijk haar reactie dat ze mij ook direct geloofde. Dat was heel fijn, want ja, dat wilde ik graag. Ik wilde gewoon geloofd worden. Ik wilde erkenning krijgen voor wat er gebeurd was op dat moment. Mijn vader hebben we die avond ingelicht. Ja, mijn vader had dezelfde reactie. We hebben als eerste ons verhaal gedeeld met een ouderling. Eigenlijk een ambtsdrager binnen zo'n gemeente. En deze ouderling was in eerste instantie eigenlijk heel begaan, maar had totaal geen kennis over seksueel misbruik. Er wordt vanuit hogerhand gevraagd aan de ouderlingen van ga onderzoek doen. Zijn er bewijzen en zijn er geen bewijzen, ja, dan moeten we het in Gods hand laten. Dus dan is het mijn woord tegen het woord van de pleger. En dat is natuurlijk een hele rare situatie. Ja, en dan is het eigenlijk bijna het verdedigen van mijn kant dat het gebeurd is. En wat er gebeurd is, tot in detail, moet je dat dus op tafel gooien en moet je dat vertellen. En dat heeft een soort van tweede trauma opgeleverd. Want buiten het feit omdat de pleger toen de tijd vaak heeft gezegd van ik kan me heel veel dingen niet herinneren. Of zelfs bepaalde zaken heeft ontkend. Bleek achteraf dus wel dat er echt wel dingen gebeurd zijn. Dat heeft hij deels ook wel erkend en bekend. Maar wat er dan gebeurt is dat door de geslotenheid van zo'n gemeenschap, dat het seksueel misbruik, daar mag niet over gepraat worden. Dat is not done. En dat is lastig. Want dat betekent dat ik alsnog een geheim heb waarin verwacht wordt van mij dat ik er niet over spreek. Er werd een soort van probleem bij mij neergelegd. Van als je dat gaat doen, dan ben jij mede schuldig, mede verantwoordelijk voor smaad op de organisatie. Daar heb ik jarenlang mee geworsteld, met alle gevolgen van dien, ook depressiviteit, periode dat ik ook gewoon niet kon werken en niet in staat was om te kunnen werken helaas. Zelfmoordgedachten en uiteindelijk probeer je nog steeds weer om gehoord te worden en erkenning te krijgen voor wat er gebeurd was. Eigenlijk krijg je geen gehoor. Je krijgt geen erkenning en ja, de belangen van de gemeenschap gaan voorop. Dus ontstaat een soort van tweede trauma. Eigenlijk victim blaming.
Well, I had a hard time because it happened more frequently. Like he would pressure me in so many ways, like I mentioned, like with words, which he was gaslighting me, which means like I would say like, oh, I'm not comfortable, and he would make it seem like it was my fault. Like, oh, but you're my girlfriend and you have these duties because we are in a relationship. Come on, you cannot never have sex with your partner. And I kind of agreed because like I know sex is supposed to be a normal and healthy thing, but he kind of changed my opinion into making sex uncomfortable for me. So now sex wasn't something I enjoyed anymore. And I tried talking about this with other people, like, hey, this is happening and I feel really uncomfortable. Like, it's not something I can enjoy anymore because you take all the fun out of it because I feel forced. And he would keep blaming me. He wasn't like, oh, I'm sorry. He would just be like, well, that's your own fault. You should have said no more then, or just do your duty or whatever. So then I started constantly convincing myself it was my own fault, until one friend actually told me, he was a guy actually, he told me that it is not okay for my ex-boyfriend to treat me like that, which is the first time ever I heard that it was bad and maybe not my fault. I also mentioned it to my mom actually because my mom and I are very close, and she told me I shouldn't talk myself any traumas, like I shouldn't be so dramatic and it's all in my head, and so that was a bit of a backsetting again. It made me doubt myself again.
Maybe it's easier for someone to just say, well, maybe you shouldn't have worn this skirt or this or that.
Victim blaming, I think it's because with sexual assault, cases, like it's such a serious offense that maybe they don't want to like criminalize people with it, because especially if it's like a younger man, then he has his whole life ahead of him.
I think that has to do something with it, and I think a lot of people are just ignorant. I love people, but humanity, not so much.
We all believe in the just world theory. That's when you do something good happens to you. And if you do something bad, or you're a bad person, then bad stuff happens to you. So it's easier to think that someone would have done something to make sure that something bad like this happens to them, than that someone would do something bad to a good person. So probably you would have done something, so the sexual assault happened to you.
Then I didn't go to therapy because I don't think I had like the strength, or I didn't understand that I needed help. But now afterwards I've been like telling people and going to specialists to talk about, not especially this, but like in general my past. And yeah, I wouldn't say it affected my daily life that much, because I thought that was my life. I thought that was okay, and there was nothing to change about my daily life, except that I had to like hide bruises from my friends and family so that they wouldn't get worried even more.
In 1994 ben ik met mijn verhaal naar buiten gekomen. En tot 2013 heb ik gesprekken gevoerd. En ja, dat heeft allemaal tot niks geleid. Dat heeft dus heel lang geduurd. En uiteindelijk heb ik de stap genomen om te zeggen van hé, maar het is gewoon niet gezond wat binnen zo'n gemeenschap gebeurt. Hè? En vervolgens heb ik ook mijn heil buiten de gemeenschap gezocht. Onder andere ook gewoon in persoonlijke hulp, hè, van een voormalige huisarts die me heel goed heeft geholpen. Dat is voor mij een start geweest van heling. En gewoon het feit van dat ik geloofd werd, ja, dat was een soort van verademing of zo. Het gevoel dat je er mag zijn. Het was niet mijn schuld. Dus ik had ook niks kunnen doen. En ja, de eerste persoon die dat ook echt letterlijk op die manier tegen mij zei, dat was mijn huisarts. Wat resulteerde in ja, ook een stukje houden van jezelf. Want dat was helemaal weg. Ik kon niet van mezelf houden. En dat heeft heel lang geduurd. Want het is natuurlijk iets wat je nooit vergeet. Dat hoeft ook niet. Maar ik heb er wel bewust voor gekozen om deze ervaring positieve zin te gebruiken. Positieve zin in te zetten. Dat doe ik door in mijn persoonlijk leven ook met anderen over te praten. Anderen te helpen. Maar dat doe ik ook in het onderwijs. Mijn rol in het onderwijs is eigenlijk een direct gevolg van wat ik vroeger heb meegemaakt. Dus ik probeer dus op die manier een hele mooie invulling te geven. Ondanks dat het een trauma is geweest, heb ik er eigenlijk nu ook wel een beetje baat bij, om dat zo maar te zeggen.
I didn't receive a lot of support, even though that might sound sad. I started with EDMR with the light bulb session, and it's like multiple sessions, so you talk about multiple memories that you have that really bother you, like that you have nightmares about, or this. So for me this was about what my ex did to me, which was in multiple ways, because it also a lot of people really don't they tend to forget how horrible emotional abuse is as well, because he also emotionally abused me by constantly gaslighting me. So I also had to talk about that, and I had to follow like the light bulb. My brain was kind of tricked, and now I can talk about it without it being extremely heavy. I have also been diagnosed about 3 weeks ago with an eating disorder, and which already started a few years ago. And yeah, I never saw it. My therapist she feels like this is very related to my previous relationship, because I didn't have any control over my own body in that case. So I started seeking control in other things, for example, the amount of things I eat.
Well, we also call it second rape, and that's because it's that harmful when victim blaming takes place. About 75% of the victims experience victim blaming. But what it does, it makes sure it stays hidden, it's the secret. And when it stays a secret, it starts to fester. And the problem is that if you don't get treated for PTSD or those symptoms, then you can get in the same situations again. 2/3 of the people who don't get trauma therapy experience a sexual assault again.
I think we all should start by listening to other people. Like,
Raising awareness, like that's a big thing.
And put yourself on their shoes.
Employers will show up, will show off like girls' underwear in trials of rape, and I feel like that should completely stop.
I would like everyone to be aware of the fact that they don't know how the victim is being manipulated and what they are actually feeling and thinking.
Waar je volgens mij echt voor moet waken is dat je gaat twijfelen aan hetgene wat iemand zegt. Je hoeft niet te bepalen, is het wel of niet gebeurd. Geef het gevoel en zeg ook dat je het gelooft. Die erkenning is gewoon volgens mij superbelangrijk. Want dat is eigenlijk een soort van fundament waarop je verder kunt. Luister gewoon. Want iemand wil het verhaal delen. Een verhaal waar iemand misschien jarenlang mee heeft rondgelopen en daar erkenning voor krijgt. Dat is zo primair, zo belangrijk.
We should really change, maybe even in education, have some more education in schools about how to not victim blame people. Think before you speak, which is like very cliche, but is true, because I also have these thoughts, but I correct myself before I actually express them to other people. Being judged is I think that's almost as bad as the experience itself. It's like a different trauma. The way people reacted to me was another trauma on its own, because it really makes you feel even worse about yourself.
Yeah, the main thing is, what we always say is just let's decide today that we stop with victim blaming. It doesn't have any kind of need or purpose. It doesn't do anything for the victim or for yourself. It's just something that goes automatically. It's how your brain works. But let's just stop it. Let's just say that to each other. Let's stop that today.
Now I'm doing so good, like so much better than back then. And well, it's been like 8 years, and I just feel so bad like for past Sonja that she ever thought that she would deserve something like that, and I'm so glad that I've come this far and I'm doing really good.
Ja, het gaat eigenlijk heel goed. Ik ben heel gelukkig. Wat ik in het begin van het verhaal vertelde, ik heb natuurlijk een mooi gezin. Ik vind mijn passie en mijn geluk ook in het onderwijs. Dus dat geeft ook echt zin aan mijn leven. Dat geeft betekenis aan mijn leven. Dus ik ben eigenlijk een heel blij mens. En wat misschien heel gek klinkt, maar ik ben niet blij dat het gebeurd is wat er vroeger gebeurd is met trauma. Maar het heeft mij wel rijk gemaakt. Het heeft mij wel in een proces gebracht waarin ik mijn geluk kon vinden. Dus wat dat betreft heeft dat een heel goed effect gehad.
How am I now? I'm surviving. I am fine, to be honest. I'm just living my life. I'm quite happy in Amstelveen, but I'm still struggling, and I don't think that is something that will just go away. Maybe it won't go away, but at least I'm proud of where I am now. I'm just here, and I feel like I'm proud enough to openly talk about it. So I'm surviving.